The day Nwanneka gave birth to Obieze, her joy knew no bound. For 10 long years, Nwanneka's home echoed with silence. No cries of a newborn. No laughter of children chasing goats around the compound. The silence was not from lack of joy but from a womb that would not open, no matter how many times she prayed, fasted, or sought help from the elders and gods. She was married to Okafor, a kind and honest man. Though he loved her deeply, even he could not shield her from the sting of whispered mockery or his mother's harsh words. She would keep her head high and walk away. But when the compound gates closed behind her, she would fall to her knees and weep into her wrapper, her chest heaving with a pain she could not share with even her husband. Okafor did his best. He never raised his voice. Never threatened her with another wife. But Nwanneka could see the longing in his eyes. She tried everything. Nothing worked. Her in-laws grew restless. One day, Okafor's mother, Mama Okuchi, came with a bag of yams and a message dressed as kindness. "My daughter," she said, sitting under the mango tree in their compound. "You know I love you like my own. But even the kindest soil cannot be tilled forever. A man must plant where there is harvest." Nwanneka knelt, her face pale. "Mama, please. I've done all I know how. Give me more time." But Mama Okuchi had already stood up. "It is not me you must convince. It is the gods. And perhaps Okafor." That night, Nwanneka did not sleep. She lay awake staring at the wooden ceiling, clutching her belly, whispering a prayer not to the gods or the ancestors, but to the sky itself. "Whoever made me, if I am truly a woman, give me a child. Even if it's only one. Even if I must give my life in return." And then, something strange happened. Weeks later, her body began to change. She lost her appetite. She grew nauseous at the smell of pepper soup. She began to wake up with sharp cravings: sour udola fruit, roasted maize dipped in palm oil, and garden eggs with bitter cola. Okafor noticed first. "You are glowing," he said one morning, brushing her cheek. "Have you fallen in love again?" Nwanneka only laughed softly, a little scared, a little hopeful. She dared not speak what her heart was beginning to whisper. On the third moon, she visited the healer's hut. Old Mama Onwalai, the midwife, ran her hand over Nwanneka's stomach, paused, then broke into a toothless smile. "My daughter," she said, holding Nwanneka's face, "the gods have opened the gate. You carry life inside you." Tears poured down Nwanneka's face like the flood of the rainy season. She ran home barefoot, laughing and crying all at once, screaming, "It has happened. Okafor, it has happened." The entire village heard the news. Some rejoiced, others doubted. "She's almost 40, one woman scoffed. "Let's wait and see." 9 moons later, under the thick canopy of night, Nwanneka gave birth. It was a boy. A beautiful baby boy with skin the color of roasted yam and eyes sharp like a hawk's. They named him Obieze, Heart of a King. From the very first moment she held Obieze in her arms, Nwanneka made a vow, a silent promise whispered through trembling lips into the ear of the tiny boy who now slept peacefully against her chest. "No one will ever hurt you. I will protect you with my life. You are my miracle, my answer." She nursed him herself, refusing the help of village women who offered to assist. She bathed him in warm pawpaw leaves, rubbed his tiny feet with shea butter, and wrapped him tightly in Ankara cloths she had kept for years, waiting, praying. Okafor was happy, yes. But something about Nwanneka's devotion felt different. She rarely let anyone else carry the baby, not even her husband. If he cried, only her arms could calm him. If he soiled his cloth, only her hands could clean him. If he coughed in the night, she would stay awake until morning, watching his chest rise and fall like the tide. "He is only a child," Okafor said once, watching her boil another herbal mixture. "Let him be. Let him learn." But Nwanneka would shake her head. You don't understand. I waited 10 years for this child. I cannot take chances. And so, the child grew, wrapped tightly in his mother's world. Like a young shoot shielded from the wind, Obieze never felt pain, never knew fear. If he reached for something, she gave it. If he pointed, she fetched. If he sulked, she begged. By the time Obieze was 5, he had developed a habit of clutching her wrapper whenever she tried to walk away. He didn't play with other children in the compound. He didn't run after goats or throw stones at mangoes. He followed his mother everywhere, like a shadow tied to her skin. At the stream, he sat close to her. In the market, he stood between her legs. At night, he curled beside her, refusing to sleep alone. Once, Okafor came home and found Obieze sitting on Nwanneka's lap, holding her face between his palms and whispering something only she could hear. Okafor chuckled. "This one will marry you if I don't keep an eye on him," he joked. But Nwanneka didn't laugh. She only stroked the boy's head lovingly and said, "Let him love me. Who else will?" At school, Obieze cried every morning at the gate. He clung to his mother's waist, refusing to let go until the teacher peeled him away. He will adjust, they said. But he didn't. At home, Nwanneka had begun firing any house help or maid who raised their voice at Obieze, even when he misbehaved. If anyone dared to shout at him or correct him, she would chase them out with venom. "Don't touch him. Don't scold him. He is mine," she would say. She began to do everything by herself: his laundry, his feeding, his bathing, even dressing him every morning like a prince being prepared for a throne. When a neighbor's child accidentally pushed Obieze during play, Nwanneka stormed to the child's home that evening, her eyes red with fury. "How dare your child push mine? Is he cursed? Tell him to stay away," she shouted. The other mothers in the village started whispering. "Is she raising a son or a husband? This love is too much. She is tying the boy to her soul." Okafor, though deeply respectful of his wife, began to feel unseen in his own home. He often watched mother and son play together like lovers, whisper secrets, and exchange long embraces that sometimes excluded him. He tried talking to her once. "My love, this boy is growing. He must learn to breathe on his own. We cannot protect him from life." But Nwanneka waved him off. "Okafor, don't start. This is my child. I waited too long for him. If he wants me by his side, I will be there." But if a chick stays too long under the mother hen, Okafor replied softly, "It may forget how to fly." Nwanneka didn't answer. Her promise was too strong. Her love too deep. Her arms too afraid to let go. She didn't know that in holding him so tightly, she was blinding him to the light beyond her shadow. And so the bond grew tighter, warm, intense, and dangerous. A mother's love had turned into a war, and Obieze, once the miracle child, was learning to breathe only through her. But love without boundaries is like water without a pot. It spills. It seeps. And sometimes, it burns. As the seasons changed and the palm trees swayed with heavier winds, Obieze grew taller. His legs grew strong, his arms firm, and his voice deeper, but something inside him remained unchanged. At age 10, he was still very much his mother's shadow. Children his age ran to the village square to play mpakoro, chased chickens through narrow alleys, and returned home with bruises and stories. But Obieze did none of that. His world began and ended with Nwanneka. Every day after school, he ran straight into her arms. He told her every word he had heard in class. He refused to eat unless she fed him. He refused to sleep unless her arms wrapped around him. He had friends, but only by name. His best friend was his mother. His only safe place was her lap. At first, Nwanneka saw this as a sign of love, a mother reaping the fruit of years of sacrifice. But others began to see something strange. "Your boy doesn't play with others," one teacher said after school. He doesn't speak unless spoken to. And when he does, he sounds like he's afraid the world might disappear. Another added, he never lets go of your hand. Even during lessons, he looks outside, watching the school gate, like he's waiting for you. Nwanneka simply smiled and said, my son just loves me dearly. But not everyone was smiling. Okafor began to worry. His gentle warnings turned into firmer advice. My wife, this boy will soon be a man. You are smothering him. You are his mother, not his ward. Nwanneka snapped, what do you mean by that? Is it a crime for a child to love his mother? Are you jealous? Okafor blinked, stunned. Jealous? Of my own son. He's the only one who stayed close to me when the world mocked me, Nwanneka said, her eyes narrowing. If my love makes you uncomfortable, then look the other way. That night, Okafor couldn't sleep. He stared into the darkness of their bedroom, listening to the quiet breathing of his wife and the boy who now shared their bed more nights than not. He remembered the elder saying, if the wings are not spread, the bird will forget how to fly. And Okafor could see that Obieze had wings, but they were tied tightly in mother's cloth. One day, during a village naming ceremony, the crowd burst into dancing and singing. Children ran across the compound, throwing firecrackers and playing Ao. But Obieze stood by Nwanneka, his hands tightly wrapped around her waist, ignoring the calls of his peers. Come, Obieze, they shouted. Let's run. He shook his head and buried his face into his mother's side. Okafor watched from the veranda. His face was lined with worry. Later that night, as Nwanneka undressed Obieze and prepared him for bed, she tickled him and laughed when he kissed her hand. She saw no harm in his closeness, no strangeness in the way he stared into her eyes or whispered, you're all I need, Mama. But Okafor saw it. He felt it. And it unnerved him deeply. One evening, while Okafor was sharing kola nuts with elders, one of them, Iziogu, the oldest man in the village, leaned close and said, Okafor, forgive my tongue. But if a child is always on a mother's lap, even when his mates are tending goats and learning trade, you must be careful. What are you saying? Okafor asked cautiously. I am saying that too much honey, even from the purest source, can rot the teeth, Iziogu said, his voice grave. Okafor nodded slowly. He understood the message. But he also knew that Nwanneka would not listen. A few months later, something strange happened. Nwanneka was seated under the orange tree, folding clothes, when Okafor walked up and sat beside her. They began to talk, laugh, and tease like old times. It had been long since they shared a moment alone. Suddenly, Obieze stormed out of the house, his face flushed with anger. Mama! Why are you laughing with Papa? He asked, frowning. Nwanneka turned to him, startled. He's my husband. What kind of question is that? But the boy only stomped his foot and shouted, come inside. I need to show you something. Okafor stood up, face hard. You will not speak to your mother like that. Apologize. Obieze glared at him. She doesn't need you. She has me. There was a heavy silence. The wind seemed to hold its breath. Nwanneka looked from her son to her husband and back again. He's just a child, she said quickly, pulling Obieze close. He didn't mean it. But even she felt the chill in her spine. The boy was growing, but the bond was tightening. He wasn't flying. He was gripping tighter. That night, Okafor sat outside long after the moon had risen, whispering prayers to his ancestors. Let this child be healed from whatever spirit binds him. Let my wife see what I see. Before this love becomes a fire. He didn't know it yet, but the fire had already begun to burn. And it would soon set everything ablaze. Time crept forward like a silent river, and Obieze turned 12. By then, his long limbs stretched like growing bamboo, his voice deepened slightly, and he began to move with the confidence of a young man. But inside, he remained a child chained to his mother's heart. He followed Nwanneka everywhere, into the kitchen, to the farm, to the stream. He wouldn't sit in the same room with Okafor unless Nwanneka was there. If she so much as left the house without him, he threw a tantrum like a toddler. He sulked. He slammed doors. He accused. One day, she returned from the village market and found him sitting alone on the floor of their hut, his eyes red with silent rage. "Why did you leave without telling me?" "I left you a note, Obieze," she said, kneeling beside him. "You were asleep. You should have woken me," he shouted. Okafor overheard and stepped in. "Enough of this nonsense. You're a boy, not a baby." But Nwanneka stood between them like a shield. "Okafor, please." He was worried, that's all. "Leave him alone. Leave him alone." Okafor's voice rose. "Nwanneka, can't you see? This boy is not just attached. He's obsessed. And you're feeding it." Nwanneka scoffed. "So now it's wrong for a son to love his mother. What should I do, chase him away? You should let him grow." Okafor thundered. "He doesn't need your breast anymore. He needs space, freedom, discipline." Those words felt like daggers to Nwanneka. She wrapped her arms around Obieze as if Okafor were a threat. "I waited 10 years for this boy. 10 years of shame. 10 years of insults. Nobody helped me wipe my tears. Nobody helped me pray. But now that I have him, everyone wants to tell me how to raise him." Obieze looked up at her, his face full of smug satisfaction, knowing his mother would always choose him. The whispers in the village grew louder. One elderly woman, Mama Ojidi, came to the house one day and found Nwanneka plaiting Obieze's hair under the mango tree. "Oh, Nwanneka," she said cautiously, "this your boy, he never leaves your side, and..." "He's my son," Nwanneka replied, smiling. "Is there a problem with that?" "No, not at all. It's just, people are starting to say things. That it's too much. That he doesn't behave like other boys his age." Nwanneka's smile faded. "Let them say. Was it their tears I cried when I was barren? Did they mock me? Yes. So now that I'm happy, let them eat their words. Obieze is mine. And no one will take him from me." Mama Ojidi nodded, then leaned closer. "My daughter, love is good. But even the rain needs boundaries, or it will flood the farm. This love, it must have limits." But Nwanneka was blindfolded by her love. She saw no flood, only sunlight. As puberty entered Obieze's bones, his behavior changed. He became possessive even toward his father. He no longer hid his resentment for Okafor. If Okafor spoke to Nwanneka, Obieze frowned. If Okafor held her hand, Obieze stormed out. If Okafor made her laugh, Obieze interrupted with questions or needs that demanded immediate attention. Okafor tried to talk to him, man to man. "Obieze, you are no longer a child. You need to find yourself. Go out. Make friends. Help on the farm." "I don't want to," Obieze muttered, not even making eye contact. "But you must. You must learn how to be your own man." "I don't want to be any kind of man. I just want Mama. She understands me. You don't." That night, Okafor sat on the veranda, his head in his hands. "This boy is not growing right," he whispered to himself. "This is not just about love. This is sickness." But when he shared his fears with Nwanneka, she laughed. "Oh, you're overreacting. Boys are always jealous of their fathers. It's just a phase. He'll get over it." "He's not just jealous," Okafor said quietly. "He's territorial." Weeks passed. One night, Nwanneka stood in front of her wooden wardrobe, changing into her night wrapper. She thought Obieze had fallen asleep. But when she turned, she saw him staring at her, his eyes dark and unmoving. Obieze, she gasped. What are you doing awake? He said nothing. He simply turned and walked out of the room. A chill ran down Nwanneka's spine. Still, she said nothing. She told herself it was innocent. Just a curious boy. Just a child. Then came the night when Obieze brought her a rose made of red cloth. For you, he said. Nwanneka smiled weakly. Thank you, my son. You're not just my mother, he whispered. You're my everything. And for the first time, she didn't smile back. Something inside her stirred. A question. A fear. But love had covered her eyes for so long, she couldn't tell where devotion ended and danger began. The wind that once danced through the compound now whispered warnings Nwanneka could no longer ignore. It started with the small things. Obieze, now 13, no longer knocked before entering her room. He no longer waited to be called. One night, Nwanneka was bathing in the inner chamber behind the house. She had locked the curtain door, but midway through rinsing, she heard the soft shuffle of feet on dry ground. A voice followed. Mama. She gasped and clutched her wrapper tightly. Obieze. What are you doing here? I just wanted to ask if you'd eaten. You've not been yourself lately, he said calmly, peeking in with no sense of discomfort. Go inside, she shouted, her voice trembling. I'll talk to you later. He paused for a moment, then slowly turned around and walked away. That night, Nwanneka couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, clutching her wrapper, her heart restless. What was once innocent now felt dangerous. The next day, she decided to speak to Okafor. She found him in the yam barn, sorting tubers. Okafor, she said quietly, I want to talk. He turned, surprised. Is everything all right? She sat beside him, her eyes downcast. I think I may have gone too far with Obieze. Okafor raised an eyebrow. You think? I know what you're thinking. You want me. You tried. But I kept holding him too close. He was my only one. My joy after the pain. I never imagined this would happen. Okafor leaned forward, his face serious. Has he said or done something? Nwanneka hesitated. He came into my bad space yesterday. I was naked. What? I chased him away. But it wasn't the first time. He's always watching. Always listening. Like a man, not a child. Okafor stood up and paced. This is not good. This is not good at all. I know, Nwanneka whispered. That's why I'm talking now. He turned to her. From today, you must stop sleeping in the same bed with him. He needs his own space, his own routine, his own identity. We must set strict boundaries. Yes. You're right. But what neither of them knew was that Obieze had been standing quietly by the window, listening. He heard every word. And inside him, something broke. Later that evening, Nwanneka entered his room gently. Obi, my son. We need to talk. He didn't look at her. He sat on the mat, folding and unfolding a piece of cloth. I'm getting older, Obi. You are too. Things must change. You'll start sleeping in your room from now on. No more coming into mine without permission. It's not because I love you less. It's because I love you enough to let you grow. Still, he said nothing. Obi. I heard you, he muttered. Talking to Papa. Planning how to take you away from me. No, my son. You chose him. Nwanneka froze. After everything, after all our years together, you chose him. Her throat dried. He is your father. He is not you. And with that, he stood up and walked out of the room. From that night, the house changed. It became a house of shadows. Obieze stopped talking to both of them. He avoided meals. He locked himself in his room for hours. But when Nwanneka walked past, she could feel his eyes burning through the bamboo walls. Okafor noticed too. "This boy is plotting something," he said one evening. "He's quiet, but the kind of quiet that screams." Nwanneka nodded. One night, while she was asleep, she woke up to a creaking sound. She sat up, heart pounding. Nothing. But when she lit her kerosene lamp, she saw a small piece of red cloth on the floor, the same one Obieze had folded and unfolded days earlier. She rushed to the door. It was unlocked. Her hands shook. The next morning, she confronted him. "Did you come into my room last night?" He shrugged. "I only wanted to check if you were okay." "Don't do that again." "But what if something happens to you?" "Obieze, you are my son. Not my husband." His eyes flickered. "But we've always been together. Just us." Nwanneka backed away slowly. For the first time in her life, she looked at her only child and felt fear. That evening, she sat Okafor down. "We need help. Maybe a pastor. Maybe a therapist from the city. But we can't handle this alone." Okafor nodded. "Let me speak with the chief tomorrow. Maybe he knows someone who can help." But by then, Obieze had stopped being a boy. He was becoming something else. And he was listening. Always listening. One warm evening, Nwanneka found Obieze sitting by the fire, staring blankly. She sat beside him gently. "My son, we need to talk. I love you, but this love must have limits." Obieze turned slowly, his voice cold and clear. "Mama, I don't want limits. I want you. All of you." Nwanneka flinched. "Obieze, stop this. It's not right. You're my child. I stopped being your child when you chose Papa. When you pushed me away. You said I was your miracle, so why are you throwing me aside?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Because what you feel is no longer love. It's sickness." That night, Okafor overheard their conversation and broke down. The next morning, he summoned the village elders. Before the council, Nwanneka wept bitterly as she recounted everything. Obieze stood silent, his face emotionless. Mama Yugo, the priestess, stood up. "This bond is cursed. This is not ordinary." Nwanneka's womb opened too late, and a spirit child came through. "Spirit," someone gasped. "Yes," she said, eyes wide. "A spirit sent to destroy the one who loved him most." The elders declared Obieze would be taken far away, to a healing home beyond the hills, where the bond could be broken and his mind restored. Nwanneka sobbed as they dragged him away. "You cursed me with love, Mama," he said, ice cold. "Now you want to break it." She couldn't speak. She only watched, as her only child was led into the forest, bound and burning with rage. Obieze was taken to a secluded healing retreat in the Hills of Silence, a place where troubled children were sent to find peace. The village priestess, Mama Yugo, believed the distance from Nwanneka would weaken the dangerous bond between mother and son. At first, the hills were quiet. Obieze was silent too, watching, waiting. The elders assigned a wise old man named Dyke to care for him. Dyke tried to reach him through stories, discipline, and prayer. But Obieze only stared into space or carved shapes into the wood walls of his hut, shapes of his mother. He refused food some days. Other times, he cried uncontrollably. But every night, he whispered into the wind, "I will go back. I will finish what I started." Dyke grew afraid. "This one," he told Mama Yugo in a message, "is like fire under dry leaves. He is not healing. He is planning." Back in the village, Nwanneka tried to move on, but her heart remained heavy. She often stood outside at night, facing the hills. "Obieze," she whispered, "please find peace. But unknown to her, peace was the last thing on his mind. One stormy night, under a moonless sky, Obieze vanished from the hills of silence. Dyke woke to find his hut empty, the door broken. On the ground was a single charcoal drawing, Nwanneka's face with a burning flame across it. The elders panicked. A messenger was sent to warn Okafor and Nwanneka. But it was too late. Obieze returned before dawn, hidden in the shadows. He knew the footpaths. He knew the house. He waited, watching them from behind the trees like a hunter stalking prey. That night, he crept into the compound. He left small signs of his return, a broken pot, a footprint near the yam barn, Nwanneka's wrapper gone from the line. Okafor grew uneasy. Something is wrong, he said. Nwanneka felt it too. Her skin tingled. Her sleep vanished. Then one night, she saw him. Standing near her window. Watching. Waiting. The bond that once brought joy had returned, but now it carried the scent of smoke and blood. The sky was unusually still. Even the crickets refused to sing. In the dead of night, Obieze struck. He set fire to the outer hut, starting with Okafor's storehouse. Flames rose into the air as villagers shouted and ran to put it out. In the chaos, Obieze entered the house. Nwanneka woke to find him standing at the foot of her bed, covered in soot, eyes wild. Obieze, she whispered, trembling. I came back, Mama. Just like I said I would. Why are you doing this? You broke the bond, he said coldly. Now I'll break everything else. She screamed, but no one heard. Okafor, trying to put out the flames, saw the smoke rising from the main house. He ran, axe in hand. Inside, Nwanneka pleaded. You're still my son. Please. But Obieze advanced. Just as he raised a burning stick, Okafor burst through the door and tackled him. The two wrestled, fire licking the walls. Nwanneka, coughing, fled into the compound. By dawn, the house was gone. So was Obieze. No one knew where he had vanished. Only his burned drawing remained. The village awoke to ruin. Okafor's arm was broken. The house was gone. Obieze vanished. Nwanneka stood before the ashes with swollen eyes, her wrapper torn and her soul heavy. How did we get here? She whispered. The elders gathered. No one could explain the mystery of the boy who came from a womb long sealed, a miracle turned madness. Mama Yugo, the priestess, spoke softly. Some blessings, when idolized, become burdens. A mother's love must be strong, but never blind. It must guide, not grip. Nwanneka bowed her head. I carried him too tightly. I never let him fall. And in protecting him from pain, I raised a storm. Weeks passed. The compound was rebuilt, but not the same. Laughter returned, but not fully. Peace came, but with silence. Okafor healed slowly. Nwanneka stopped wearing red. She often sat under the old udala tree, watching the hills. Villagers whispered her name with both pity and reverence. Her story became a tale for young mothers. Love your children, but do not chain them. Teach them to stand, even if it means letting go. One morning, as birds chirped and dew painted the leaves, Nwanneka looked toward the hills and whispered. Wherever you are, my son, may you find the healing I could not give.